today with Andrew Lockett, the President of the Tasmanian Deer Advisory Committee, Scott Freeman, the Tasmanian Coordinator for Australian Deer Association, and Donald Riddle, Senior Vice President of the Sporting Shooter Association of Tasmania. Andrew, can I start by asking how the study originated?
So, firstly, by a lot of hard work and persistence shown by the representatives of the various hunting and target shooting groups in Tassie, particularly Don Riddell of the Sporting Shooters Association, Scott Freeman of the Australian Deer Association, and Andrew Winwood, Tasmanian Deer Advisory Committee. This hard work resulted in the Tasmanian Liberal Party making a 2021 election promise to conduct a study into the economic contribution of recreational hunting and shooting into the Tasmanian economy. So I'd like to thank Minister Palmer and the Rockcliffe Liberal Government for delivering on this promise. The purpose of lobbying for this study was to highlight a positive benefit of recreational hunting and shooting. While the economics is not the only positive benefit we see from recreational hunting and shooting, it does form a common base to compare it to other activities.
Andrew, do you think the report achieved what it set out to do?
Well, it's aggregated the widespread activities undertaken by recreational hunters and shooters, which would normally go unnoticed. So it's spread across, those activities are spread across a big geographical area. And to have all this information collated in one place, I think is valuable in terms of understanding what its value is to Tasmania. It gives the government and policymakers a sense of importance to maintain an environment where recreational hunting and shooting can occur.
Andrew, what, if anything, surprised you from the study's results?
Yep, so the high participation rate of Tasmanian recreational hunters and shooters in this survey compared to similar surveys that have been carried out on the mainland, and also the high numbers of people who participate both in recreational hunting and recreational shooting. So a lot of people out there doing both of those activities.
Scott, I understand a great deal of work and assistance from ADA and its members were provided. Where do you think these results will improve or benefit hunters in general?
Awareness of the extended benefit of hunting, not just for hunters but the community as a whole, showing the true value of our wild fallow deer. This value goes much further than the dollar value, but has a social status in the hierarchy of our game animals in Tasmania. For the first time, we have a data point to show the social standing of hunting our game animals, and now we can progress in a place to improve on this. Hunting may not be as simple as fishing. We just cannot simply build a boat ramp, but we need to build bridges between landowners, the department, hunters, and even further to the general public.
Scott, based on the results of the study, do you believe funding should be made available for further studies into the mental health aspect of participation in clubs and recreational hunting, considering many older males choose this as their opportunity to de-stress and stay connected with family and friends?
In short, yes. We're already looking to see if we can extract extra information in this current survey. One aspect regarding volunteer hours Tasmanian hunters put forward to the Tasmanian agriculture industry, and shortly we will sit down with the Minister to go over this report and looking forward to seeing how we can build on it and put processes in place to continuously improving and growing as a hunting community and the shooting sports community throughout Tasmania, and thus further protect our traditional way of life of hunting in Tasmania. Ethical hunting is about respect. Respect of our quarry. We hunt respect of the landowner, be that public or private. Then in return, we will see respect of our traditional hunting expand to continue to expand for future generations. Looking more into the mental and physical benefits of hunting and understanding being in the outdoor environment as on us all cannot be taken for granted, and given the high stress environment today, getting out and enjoying the Australian bush be valued by us all. Hunting time is a funny thing. Often it's spent with family and friends, but more often it's spent alone. And sometimes this alone brings us together in the long run. As a hunter, there's many challenges that must be overcome in our pursuits for our end goal. In today's world, we can have the added challenges of the anti-movement. These anti-hunting and firearm sentiments place additional stress on the dedicated ones advocating for the protection of our tradition. these people need to be shown respect and supported also.
What is the SSAA Tasmania's view on the value of the economic report?
I think the report's got many facets, some of which have been addressed by my colleagues. In particular, we've got a big focus on sport and target shooting, and I might comment on that briefly. I think our members would be surprised to see that of this report, something like 25% of the value was attributed to sport and target shooting. The other interesting issue on the whole report is that the other surveys that have been done by other states didn't include sport and target shooting. So this is the first time that I'm aware that sport and target shooting has actually been included in one of those surveys. So yeah, it's come to quite a surprise to people, the amount of shooting that's happening out there on ranges. With hunting, this information shows that sport and target shooting is a meaningful recreation activity. It highlights the complexity of economic systems to those who think that just because they don't undertake something, it doesn't have any merit, it's not socially, physically acceptable or has any economic benefit to the community.
The Examiner of the 18th of November ran an article on the report. One response it elicited was from Animals Tasmania, who seriously questioned the report. Do you have a response to this comment?
Yes, the response of seriously questioning highlights to me that this report hidden. Groups such as this try very hard to portray hunters in a very negative light because that suits their purpose. However, the survey had many aspects, and one of the aspects was that the participants in hunting and sport shooting come from a very broad cross-section of the community. In fact, they're very normal people who have a broad interest in participating in these activities. So this sort of message really destroys the hysteria that these types of groups use to try and portray hunters and shooters.
As a member of the steering committee, how valuable did you find this project and how much input did you have?
As discussed, the report was commissioned by the Liberal government. It was very much driven in its... As a steering committee member, I had really good access to Heather Bailey, who was the principal project leader. And individually as a group, I think we were able to contribute very meaningfully to making sure that the people doing the survey could understand the broad scope in which they were operating, and I think that gave a really good perspective. No doubt the scope will be the report will be criticised in some way because the scope was relatively narrow, focused very much on sport and target shooting and on people with game licences. So there's a lot of other people hunting and using firearms in the community that weren't actually picked up in this report. So in that sense, this report's quite conservative, and that means, I think, in being conservative, it actually is strength of the report, but it also gives us something to build on in the future. So we can look at other aspects of the sport, particularly things like, as Scott's mentioned, mental health, physical health, all those sorts of things that are part of the experience of hunting and sport shooting. It's interesting to note that in the list of reasons why people do sport and target shooting and hunting, the top of the list was to be outdoors. And the second one was for collection of food. So that outdoors experience is incredibly important to people. I know some people think that being outdoors is going to the hardware store on the weekend, but to many people, that's not what they want to do.